Good day, everyone. Heartily welcome back to Beyond the Wait. I hope everybody's had a wonderful Easter break and everybody's settled back nicely after the school Easter holidays. And yeah, we almost upon another midterm break. So yeah, welcome to Beyond the Wait. This is a podcast where we want to bring insightful conversations with families living with neurological conditions, and we just want to share the journeys of many special and remarkable people and learn from them. It's a podcast that I've started to help empower us all to that point where we can hopefully do more for our children, our adolescents and our adults, and for our wider community living with neurological conditions. So yeah, today we have an honored guest of mine. We have our Cuddy with us. Welcome, Christine.
Thank you.
So, don't be so nervous. Okay. So yeah, for me, I've the privilege to have met Christine, her family, and I can just tell you she is an absolute beacon of resilience and pure compassion, and I'm sure it's going to come across to you guys throughout this podcast. Christine is a mother of a child with autism. She has this kind of dual torch that she's carrying as well, but she's also an inspiring teacher in the realms around special and complex needs. Yeah, am I correct there? So yeah, within education, so she's a teacher. So yeah, I just know she's very in this system that we live in with lack of resources, very resourceful woman, yeah. And so we hope to learn much from her today. And she's just shown an unwavering commitment to, both nurturing as well as educating others, and just she's an absolute treasure of absolute wisdom and insight. And I encourage you all, stay tuned with us, and I'm certain we got much to learn. So Christine, I said welcome already. Thank you to the depths of my heart and soul for your willingness to be here with us. I know you've sacrificed much. 2 kids at home, kids,
yeah,
and a husband.
That's it.
Thank you to your husband
Keeping
now
all pieces
already.
Together.
Yeah, please share my thanks. If he doesn't get to listen to this, tell him I say thank you. And yeah, it's appreciated. So let's kick this off. So I just think it's the best thing to do to give the audience a feel of you and your family. Can you maybe just share with us your journey so far, living with your personal journey? We'll touch there first, living with autism, and most significantly, what kind of impact that has had on yourself as a family.
Yeah. Well, I suppose Dara was born in 2018. He's 5 now. He is a treasure. His older sister is 7. So she was 2 years old when he was born. Everything was perfect, developing typically, walking, talking. And then COVID hit in 2020. He was about 18 months at that time. So kind of everything shut down. We were home for about 6 months. He was out of creche and out of routines and stuff. And for us, I suppose, we didn't really pick up on anything up until he went back to creche when things opened again. And they first said to us, have you noticed his hearing? He's not answering to his name quite the way he would have prior to the lockdown. So kind of my initial thing was guilt, I suppose, that I hadn't noticed, because we had been just at home, just our family.
Sure.
So I went to the GP and they recommended contacting public health nurse, who said, look, we can put him on a public wait list, or I would recommend going privately and getting his hearing checked. So that was kind of the start of our journey. We went and got a private hearing check and they said, no, his hearing seems fine. But the girl that did that, the audiologist, was a speech and language therapist. And she said, I think maybe he could do with some speech and language sessions. So we did that. And I suppose at the same time, right before lockdowns, I had moved into an autism class teacher role in the school that I'm in. So I had kind of been becoming made aware of the world of autism.
I was just about to ask that question.
Yeah.
What was your insight or knowledge around autism?
Very little.
Autistic persons.
It's something that we'll probably touch on later if I get into talking more about the education system. There isn't really upskilling for teachers unless they go and seek it out. So I went into the classroom and then started doing courses and things in the evenings. So I was I had some knowledge, but not very much. So kind of at that time, I recognised in myself that I didn't have enough knowledge to do the role to my full ability. So I signed up to a postgrad in DCU on the education of children with autism. And it was really through doing that course that I was learning different things, and I was starting to see little nuggets of things in Dara. At just before his second birthday, he had quite a lot of speech. He had about, I would say, 250 words. He was putting sentences together, and then over the span of about 3 months, he regressed to the point that by his second birthday, a lot of his words were gone.
Okay.
So I was noticing that, thinking maybe it was a hearing issue, maybe, there was a speech delay.
Okay.
I raised it with the public health nurse, paediatricians, consultants within the HSE. I was told twice that basically he was an active, healthy boy. There was nothing wrong. Weight, that I was kind of maybe an anxious mother, or maybe I knew a bit too much and I was trying to, which was very frustrating, really, because in your gut that there's something is amiss.
Yes.
And while it's quite nice to hear that there's nothing wrong, because it's what you hope
medically
for.
is healthy, yeah.
Yeah. And he's always been a really happy boy, and I suppose he wasn't having meltdowns, and he was fine with change and things like that.
Yes.
So his communication was his main kind of area of concern. So I suppose we were kind of told, let's wait and see. Plus,
you're at the doctor's there for a reason.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're concerned what's happening. My son is speech is regressing. Mm-hmm. He's losing his words, everything else. Okay, you're suspecting hearing issues potentially. Mm-hmm. Finally, speech and language concerns. Mm-hmm. But now the doctors are telling you he's perfectly healthy. Yeah. What is your response to that? I mean,
in your gut. Every parent, that is one thing I would say to every single parent I meet now. You know your child better than any professional. Yes. You live with your child, you know your child. There's no book, there's no course, there's nothing that anyone can know better than a parent that knows their child.
Agreed.
So I knew there was something, and it's also 2021. The health system is picking up. He went on a list for assessment of need, but they were 18 months behind at that point. And it was only really from persisting that we even got on a wait list for assessment of need. And it was me knowing that I needed to go down these routes. So when you're told there's nothing wrong, I could empathise that a lot of parents would have said, okay, great.
Sure, and as you said, it all started just post-COVID. Was there any of that, he's a COVID baby? Yeah, that's such a lot.
And you're kind of thinking that yourself. You're thinking, well, he's had 6 months out of creche. He hasn't been around anyone else. He hasn't been in playgroups. He hasn't been in play centres.
Yeah.
So you're kind of hoping that we'll do a catch-up. But I suppose as I was doing my own studies and things were kind of piecing together, I said, no, we need to just go privately.
And by this time, he's heading towards 3 years of age.
Yeah. So when he was, eventually they put us on a wait list for public speech and language therapy. And when at the initial intake, they said, no, this is more complex need. So they put us then on the wait list for the CDNT.
Okay.
So that wait list started then. But in the meantime, I said, I'm not waiting for these. We were able to kind of
Sure, because you went from a waiting list to a waiting list.
Absolutely.
Basically.
Yeah. So we said, we need answers one way or another. So we went and got the diagnosis, and really...
Privately,
yeah. Okay. So that meant that by the time we got called to the top of our waiting list, I was able to say, well, here's the report. The work is done, I suppose.
By the time you get called by the public system.
Yes.
To come in for your AON assessment, which is assessment of needs.
Yes.
Assessment.
And that only
by that
happened,
time already had the official diagnosis.
Yes, that was only just this December, just gone. So he was 5.5 by the time he was called. Wow. So he was already in a special class. We had already put those things in place for him.
All by yourselves.
Yeah, and I suppose I was really lucky in that from being within the system, I knew kind of the avenues to go down. I was able to find the people that I needed to at the times I needed to, and I feel very fortunate for that. So hopefully, if a message from this podcast can be kind of pointing some people in the right direction, that would be great. 'Cause
Yeah, it's leading into my next question there, Christine. Our next question here, I think we're all fairly aware that navigating the health and education system can be an extremely complex one, and a frustrating experience, unfortunately, for many families, especially those touched with neurological conditions such as autism, ADHD, dyspraxia, whatever the diagnosis. So, from your perspective, as both a parent and a professional, where do these systems excel in supporting your children? Let's look at the positive first. Is there any area within the systems at the moment in time that they're actually excelling in supporting our children as well as our families living with special and complex needs?
I think the HSE is pretty broken. I think that's not news to anyone, really.
Okay.
That those systems are broken. I think maybe an underutilized, or maybe an under kind of appreciated, is the actual people working in the system. The system itself is broken, but the people inside in the system are the
caring.
gold. Are the gold, really, because when you think of to be in primary school anyway, because that's the system that I know.
Yes.
Anyone who works within that system, there is no upskilling. There really isn't. There's courses you can go on for a day. A day is not enough. It's on teachers to do those courses in their evenings and on their weekends. They've cut back because there's a subbing shortage. There's no more in-school during the day training. All the training for teachers happens in the afternoons and in the evenings. So it's on a teacher to give up their time. So I would say the teachers who do that are the gold.
Do I get the sense that you feel that some of these courses, at least a course or two, should be mandatory?
Absolutely. But I suppose there should be some level, but there is also an issue in that sometimes working in an autism class can be daunting for teachers. So sometimes there is principals can struggle to find the teachers that are willing to go into it. It's all well and good for CNOs to say open the classes, but have we got the teachers? And I think it needs to look at the initial teacher education in the colleges, so that when teachers come out of their colleges, they don't feel like, working in a special class is daunting. I don't feel equipped to do that.
Exactly. I was just about to ask that question. So within your 3-4 year degree studies to become a teacher, whether it's primary or secondary or whatever level, none of the special and complex needs are being touched in your.
Well, I can only speak from my own experience. I've qualified 16 or 17 years ago, but I would say we got maybe 2, maybe 3 lectures on autism. We got 1 year of lectures once a week on special education, and that was to cover dyslexia, literacy, numeracy, autism, ADHD, dyspraxia, all the different array, Down syndrome, the array of things that we can meet in the classroom. Okay. And that would have been nearly 20 years ago.
Sure.
A couple of hours, and it's changed so much.
But there's so much, and the need is exactly. There's no like a post-grad mandatory upskilling or something.
Not mandatory.
It's up to yourself.
Absolutely, yeah. But I would say within the system, it's the people working in it. Through the CDNT and through the HSE and everything, I've met wonderful speech and language therapists and occupational therapists, but they're working in a broken system. So I suppose I would say, as frustrating as it can be, it would be really easy to go in there and start shouting and giving out to the people working there.
Yeah.
They're not the ones that have caused the system, and they're doing their best.
Yeah, we reflect back to one of the most important points that came out of the very, very first podcast. I don't know if you've seen it with Denise and Kieran. Kieran being a principal, Denise and they also family living with autism. And one of the important points that came out there was finding that therapist that you kind of click with.
Yes.
You know, that this is just going to work. So I'm getting the sense by what you're telling me, the people, they are positive. They're there, they're caring. You're clicking with a good speech and language therapist, but then the system seems to break it down.
Yeah, well.
Or the system forces them to cut ties with you within 6 weeks.
Well, there is no
8 weeks.
direct therapies within the public system. There's no direct therapies working with the children. It's parent education. If you're in complex needs, if you're in primary care, you can get maybe 6 or 8 weeks or longer of direct therapy. But if you're under the CDNT, if you're deemed too complex for primary care, then you don't get direct therapies.
So it's you getting called into those courses.
Parent education courses, which
They haven't met your son yet.
a 4-week, they meet Dara once a year to review his goals and see how we're getting on. But there's no direct OT, there's no direct speech and language, which is, they don't have the personnel, and I understand that, but it's not good enough.
It's not good enough.
Especially
when we're all preaching this early intervention is key.
Yeah. And it's, I suppose you could think about it and get upset and angry and cross, but that doesn't help either. And that doesn't help Dara.
Not. Yeah.
So I would say, as much as you can get frustrated with the system, it's so important to just keep doing your best. And if you can seek private therapies where you can, there's great, you can get great refunds back through health insurance and things like that, to look into those. I've heard there's a great VHI policy that you can get back a lot of the costs, but you have to take up that baton and fight every day, which is frustrating.
It's frustrating, especially if you don't know, and that's why. So, in the near future, we will have on some guests from Citizens Information, where they'll go through all those potential avenues that grants, social welfare grants that our parents living with complex needs can potentially access.
Yes.
Please subscribe if you want to see those podcasts and don't want to miss out on that. But look, what I'd like to ask now is, like, you've been playing this balancing act, so to say, between being a parent of a child with autism, being a professional teacher within complex needs, upskilling yourself in your own insights in the most unique way that you potentially, could do it. What I'd like to ask is, like, is there specific key pieces of advice you could give other parents first and foremost, from a parent's perspective, and then the second part from an educator professional perspective on how can they, like you just said there now, you just got to keep going, not give up. What kind of things did you do to keep going, to provide the best support for your child and for your pupils?
I think the most important thing is to see that anyone who is who is supporting your child is on the one team. And the only way that a team works is if they communicate with each other. Okay. I would say the communication between home and school is huge.
Crucial.
And as much as you can, if you can involve any professionals working with your child as well in that, and to kind of create that team yourself is huge. I think I really, in that balance between mother and professional, I think I underestimated the difference of the role. I suppose you could think that I would be the expert to be a mother of a child with autism, but it goes out the window when it's your own child. It's so funny.
Absolutely.
All the things you learnt in a book are out the window when it's your own child.
Absolutely.
But I suppose from a professional perspective, I've seen there's been, unfortunately, because of the lack of school places, we've seen an increase in the amount of parents that maybe have a child who has autism or maybe would benefit from a special class, but they know there are no special class places, and they enroll their child in junior infants maybe and don't say anything about a diagnosis until the child is enrolled. We've seen that a little bit increasing because there are no places and they're seeking to get their child in anywhere. But it sets you up on the back foot.
Yeah.
And suddenly we've had in our school where children are enrolled and then a report appears that they had complex needs, but they didn't want us to say we don't have a space, which you wouldn't.
Yes.
But it means that you're already on the back foot for trying to put supports in place. I think there's a lack maybe of information, even among psychologists, about what schools can do. There's, even on Dara's report when he got his report through a private psychologist, they said to us, oh, we think he'll be fine in mainstream with SNA support. And I said, but he won't get an SNA.
And I'm pretty certain the report didn't say that.
And then no, I had to get them to change it. So I said, I need you to put in a line to say he needs a special class in case we need it. Because we were getting that report when he was 3. We didn't know how he would be when he's 5.
When he's 5 or 6, yeah.
So I said, we need this in there just in case we need it. But had I not known, I think there's maybe parents feel, oh, they'll get access to an SNA. I mean, in our school we have over 400 children and we have 3 SNAs for all of those children. Schools are doing their best, but we need open communication. I think the value of even as simple as saying, for me to tell Dara's teacher, oh, he was really tired this morning and he didn't eat all his breakfast.
Sure.
That's huge. That can impact his whole day.
Whole day.
Oh, he didn't sleep very well last night. That impacts his day.
day.
It impacts the demands maybe that his teacher will place on him. It's just the value of communication.
And shall I add, honest communication.
Because
very important.
A parent not informing fully about something that's in a report or something a professional has said, or even just neglecting to say that, oh, somebody's on holidays, somebody's, there's a big change at home. Our pet died.
Yes.
Can have an impact on a child beyond what we would expect.
Yes.
But that communication can make the difference between making and breaking a child's day.
Yeah. So didn't sleep well last night, whatever the case may be.
It's huge.
Makes a huge difference.
And I think, and it goes both ways. It goes like something can happen in the yard that a teacher also doesn't
report back to the parent. Yeah.
And the child is thinking about that and it seems fine in school and then goes home and has a total outburst because they're in their home environment.
And mommy and daddy is wondering
what has happened. And it's something small that happened on the yard. The teacher forgot to say it. It's that open communication, I think, is the most important thing.
Fantastic. That is powerful. That's a really powerful piece of advice. Very, very important. So, in your experience, any specific resources and strategies that you would like to speak to us about?
It's very difficult to recommend anything specific because every child is so individual. Mm-hmm. Every child, it's an infinity amount of different ways a child can present. Mm-hmm. So it's very difficult. But I would say
let's go back to, I think you made a powerful point, building up to the whole communication point.
Yeah.
Is creating that multidisciplinary team for your child.
Yeah.
As you said, it's getting your occupational therapist, your speech and language therapist, your teaching staff, and yourselves as parents, all of us working together, communicating with each other.
Yeah.
And establishing, say, the right programs, if you want to put it that way, for your child to develop and excel.
Yeah.
I'd say that would be a big one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we recently had some speech and language sessions where we're looking at AAC device for Dara. He's pre-verbal, so we're looking at working on ways that an iPad can support him and his speech. And it was very interesting to see his speech and language therapist use a lot of OT strategies. And it's to see that nothing works in isolation.
Fantastic.
So it's maybe he's communicating more when he's jumping on a trampoline or swinging on a swing, and it's seeing those integrated approaches and bringing those then into school. And it's not seeing one thing, oh, he's at his OT time now and then his speech and language is here and schoolwork is
isolated.
Here. It's really not. It's that mesh of approaches, and it's working out what works for each individual child. It's taking the time to.
And it's for the professionals also to see the importance of that collaboration regarding a specific child.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Again, the system, unfortunately, then comes into play again, where the system is failing us all because we just don't have the time, half the time, to be sitting down and discussing each and individual child.
No, that's true. I suppose for educators, it's taking the time to see that. We actually in school only yesterday had a great session with a group of play therapists, and they were saying how if one child in the room is dysregulated, the other children will feel that energy.
Absolutely.
And it's taking time to see that if you're putting something in place like a fidget for one child, offering them to every child in the class or having them for every child, it removes the potential stigma of using a fidget or something.
It's the new movement
And
that we all want to push out, called sensory inclusion.
It's proper inclusion.
As opposed to exclusion, and establishing that. That's a resource I just want to throw in there that I think is vitally important. Sensory inclusive schools. I did the workshop there on Sunday now. Some of your teachers was there, and that was one of the most important points I was trying to write home, of the importance of sensory inclusion classrooms.
Yes.
You know, creating a sensory friendly environment, not just for the child with a formal diagnosis, but for all the children.
Because you don't know who in that room is masking or could hugely benefit from, maybe it's a band around their chair.
Yes.
And they just need that little bit of input and it can up-level them. And I think it's getting there. I think we're becoming much more aware that it's not just, say, autistic children that have sensory preferences. We all have sensory preferences. We all have regulation needs.
Yes.
And it's normalizing that, and it's not to say that, you know, I suppose it's making it inclusive, and it's showing that by supporting one, we can actually support all.
Exactly, and all can support the one.
Yeah.
You know, and it's all team, peer encouragement and everything else, but also because of the lack of staffing, as you mentioned, like 400 kids, 3 SNAs only. Yeah, fine, we know we have of our children that needs that one-on-one as far as possible. They're not going to get it. So what can we do? We need to change the environment.
Yes.
Instead of taking a child out of the classroom, which the teacher cannot do because there's 29 other students, the SNA is shared between 3-4 other kids, and now you got this wonderful sensory diet from the wonderful OTs out there, ourselves out there, and it requires them to take the child out of the classroom.
Yeah.
Not happening until where? How can we actually take that sensory program diet and make it work right there?
Yes.
While I'm busy doing what I'm doing. I'm teaching environmental friendly class or whatever the case would be. What activity can we do to stimulate the vestibular system or the proprioceptive system? The bits and pieces you can do right there. Do a bit of jumping jacks, do a bit of swaying, whatever the case would be.
And there's more awareness now that I think there was always this feeling that I have a curriculum to cover. But if a child is dysregulated, they're not learning anything.
They're not learning nothing.
And not only are they not learning, the children around them are probably distracted not learning. So actually taking those little breaks in your day positively impacts everyone.
Everyone, and they learn more.
Yeah, absolutely. If they're regulated and they're happy, it's the biggest thing, really.
Powerful point. Something that always used to irk me is that like you said, the curriculum, I have to get through my curriculum, It's like, you're not getting to the no curriculum. You may have rattled through it. A child took in nothing. No, you didn't learn anything about the curriculum, you know. So.
The range of need in a classroom now is so far beyond even 10 years ago. I mean, the changes I've seen in the 15 years in the classroom.
Wow.
The range of not only kind of what we would have said as special education need. There's children with more social economic need. There's trauma. There's things that we're seeing in a classroom that, quite frankly, we're not as educators equipped to properly deal with. But there's maybe in that feeling ill-equipped, there's maybe a disempowerment where we don't look at simple things like, let's all get up and do 10 jumping jacks and do some deep belly breaths. Yeah. And what that can do.
A powerful.
Is the simple things. Let's just go back to relating with children, really connecting with children, seeing what they need, feeding that. If your children are sitting and hopping on their chair, they need to get up and move.
Yep.
And
How long is your breaks, if I may ask, within your school?
the outside time?
Outside break time?
20 minutes.
20 minutes. What happened to the hour?
Should,
That hour is vital.
yeah, it's...
And that's the thing, again, the system.
Yeah.
That's
And
changed.
we have, like, our teachers, some of them do a daily mile before they start the day, and they go and they run laps, and they say the impact on the children's learning is huge.
It's huge. But also, because, 20 minutes, why I say 20 minutes, research has proven. And I mean, they're just coming out from this. They have to go to a higher alert level to be out in the playground, play with their friends. And they need another 45 minutes to 60 minutes just to come back down. But now we've taken away that hour. Do you have any insight? Can you give me insight into why the hour became 20?
I don't know if there was ever an hour for us in primary.
Okay.
Yeah, it's for at least, I suppose the department guidance has always been 40 minutes of recreation time.
Across the
day.
entire day.
Some schools will do 10 and 30. We do 20 and 20.
Sorry, I've worked in so many different systems. I could
maybe
be confusing.
second level is an hour. I'm not sure. For us,
I know it's a bit
40.
longer in the second level, but and I think different countries.
Because we have that curriculum to get through.
But they see, that's the point I'm getting to, is it because that curriculum needs to get done, where if you did get the hour, more of the curriculum is going to get in. So where's those our priorities, right?
Well, we do it with the hour of physical education, but that's an hour in a week.
Okay.
So
and is it a one straight hour?
Some teachers will
split
do
over the
2:30s or an hour. That's up to the teacher to decide. But there's no teacher that's only doing that.
Yeah.
Because the children couldn't sit and attain for, there's no teacher that I know that does more than half an hour, 40 minutes of actually sitting. And between lessons, you're up and you're moving, because children need to move.
They need to.
And they need to get more energy flowing. They need to increase the heart rate, and it is happening. It's just unfortunately not given as, I suppose, from...
And then resources wise, they need to get up, and we know our children with neurological conditions, and when there is a bit of vestibular dysfunction or proprioceptive dysfunction, or they need that added input, because great, run a mile makes a huge difference, but it's not enough across a 6-hour school day, our children, so they need a bit of that, vestibular stimulation things. Do you have the resources? Is there swing in the playground? Is there for that 20 minutes? Is there climbing a rope? Is there,
You can we've got 3 swings among the 420
but 420
children.
kids, oh yeah.
It doesn't quite work.
Doesn't quite work that way, so.
No, there's really not. I mean, we do the best we can with providing balls and hoops and that kind of thing. But it's a challenge for sure.
Their best bet is get out and run and play tag, which is great. Nothing wrong with playing tag. It's actually a good vestibular movement activity. We've touched on a lot of issues there. A lot of issues, and like I say again, the research has just proven the importance. You've made a powerful point, and I want to write it down: the importance of movement. Movement is absolutely key. For all our children, diagnosis or no diagnosis.
Absolutely.
Movement is absolutely key. And there was this, there's actually is it a TEDx, I think I'm going to pull it up, and I think I'll put it up on my social media actually, where this fellow occupational therapist did the whole research on why we have the fidgeting child today. Why is the statistics of fidgeting gone up so much? And it purely boils down to that. Never mind, we won't go into the screen times. And, are we stopping our children from actually just getting out there and play?
Yeah, I think so.
And moving. Doing some bear crawls with their buddies, and, and let them bang into each other, and let them climb trees, and let them... Where did this all stop?
I think screens have a lot to do with it. I do, but I also think, I suppose, in schools, unfortunately, it comes down to health and safety, and it comes down to all those kind of restrictions that are put on us that you have to look at, that you, unfortunately, the culture that we're in now, insurance and health and safety and risk assessments and all these things do come into play. And it's unfortunate.
Because I heard, and again, I hope I don't come across judgmental, but yesterday I heard something very disturbing from a fellow teacher, that there's schools that has a no running policy.
Yeah.
In that 20 minutes. So the poor kids have to just hawk.
Yeah.
They can't even play tag or anything with their buddies, or if they do play tag, it's hawking.
Yeah. Sometimes schoolyards, there's too many children. There isn't space. There isn't, and they will cut. The demand for school places is so huge. They're expanding schools. There isn't forward planning. And they're adding classrooms. They're putting prefabs onto schoolyards, so then children have nowhere to play. You know, it's coming back to, I suppose, the idea that it's the system that's broken. It's that idea of planning for urban spaces, planning for schools, planning for, if there's 800 houses being built, then these children are going to need somewhere to go. There's going to need to be a new school. There's going to need to be, you know...
A new park.
There's a lot of, I suppose, bigger than you or I and far beyond our pay grade. There's a lot of those issues that I think come into play.
Yes.
I do think schools are doing their level best within the system where funding is cut constantly. Like, we look at...
Like you say, we're not judging the people within it.
It's the system, really. I mean,
really the system, yeah.
Simple things as every year we have to replace footballs that get burst or that get lost up a tree, and we're thinking, where's the money for that going to come from? Like, it's really, our hands are so tied. And I would say that message to parents, that schools are really doing their best. You know, we're fundraising when we need to. Try not to do it as much as we have to. But it's to know that the schools and the teachers in them are really doing their best to upskill and to provide resources as much as we can.
And then also parents speaking to teachers and advocating for their child to get that necessary movement breaks and things. But I'd also like to say to all of us as parents, really, just so we're not judging certain parents, there's no point advocating and expecting the school to do everything, but when your child gets home, you're doing nothing. It's vitally important that the employee, you know...
And join the links. If you're lucky enough to have an OT that you can go to, ask that OT to provide information for the school and give that information, then say, oh, this is what my child is working on with their OT. Is there any chance you could do this in school?
Correct.
You know...
That's exactly what I was getting to.
If you feel like you'd love your child to do some therapy ball work, it could be as simple as pop onto Amazon and buy a therapy ball for €20, take it into the school, show the school what they're doing.
Give them an indoor trampoline.
Something simple. Yeah, it can be as simple as that, as just saying... I did that with Dara's preschool, actually. I said he's working with an OT and they've recommended heavy work and kind of weighted things and trampoline. And they said, well, we don't have a trampoline. I said, well, if I bought you a trampoline, would you use it? They said, absolutely. Brilliant. So I went to Argos and got a €40 trampoline and said, here's a trampoline and here's a weighted blanket. Can you try and add those into his day? And I think the schools and the preschools and things, they appreciate that actually you're not saying, I need this. You're saying, if I give you this, can you help me? It's that idea of collaboration. It's that working together, because there's really...
And you being able to say to them, you've seen it work firsthand, because this is what we do at home and it does keep them regulated.
Exactly.
This is what we maybe do before we sit down with a bit of homework for those kids that get homework, and it works.
Yeah, and it's even seen that, okay, we go to OT on a Tuesday, that it can't be just that.
No.
It has to filter into
continuity of therapy.
And if you can do it in school and at home, and it's that kind of, I suppose, generalisation of skills for the child to say, I don't just do this in Denzel's room.
Yes.
I also do it at home and I do it in school.
Correct.
And I've identified that really helps me. It helps the child then to become more independent. and to choose their own regulation strategies.
Absolutely.
Because I think that's our biggest goal, is to raise independent learners. That can,
correct.
you know.
So on that massive goal, I know we both feel, wish we could save the world now and and build those parks and build those schools with the, like you say, with the urban resources required. Is there anything that you'd like to still share with our audience?
No, I think the world is changing. I think we're learning more about what it is to be autistic in this world. I think there's been a really wonderful shift in the last few years where autistic voices are being amplified.
Yes.
I think on your own podcast you've had some of your own clients speaking. I think there's a move to listening to our autistic adults and children.
The neurodiversity move,
what they need, and I think that's where we need to go. I think As I Am are doing great work within coming at it from what do autistic people feel they need.
Yes.
I think there's huge strides being made in the last 5 years in particular in autistic voices, as I say, being amplified. There's resources available that are created by the neurodiverse community.
Yes.
And I think
I agree.
it's creating a really inclusive space, and I think there is great hope for the future. I think there's great people shouting really loud about what's needed, and we need to listen to what they say.
We need to listen, we need to respect, but we also got to realize that we got a lot to give ourselves. To contribute. And if we do not understand, it is up to myself, if I don't understand something, to go and ask. Or learn about it, or get to know about it, read about it, make myself aware. Okay, insight is a powerful thing. I often say insight is more powerful than eyesight. You don't have to see it first. Go out there and be encouraged. You get connected more to podcasts like these, or like I said, As I Am's podcast. There's so many resources out there.
With the insight as well is that gut feeling, and I think that's huge. I think for parents and for anyone working in neurodiverse spaces, there's so many voices and sometimes conflicting.
Yes.
One thing I would say to parents is, you know your child best. Follow your gut instincts.
Yes.
You know what approach you feel will work for your child, and just because a professional says it, if you feel in your gut that that's not the right thing, research more.
Don't accept it.
There's so many avenues. There's so many different therapies and so many different avenues you can go down to support your child. Find something that really feels authentic to you because you know your child best, and advocate for them, really.
Powerful. Christine, thank you so much. So to you, thank you for your time. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. I am certain that together with me, you feel this compelling urge to do more, I hope, and to learn more. And Christine, thank you for your passion. Thank you for your commitment. Thank you for your advocacy. Thank you for your support, not only to your own family, but to other families, other educators. And I want to encourage us all, let us all just come together. Let us come together as a community. Let us learn from one another. Let us empower one another. And let us help and support one another. So with that, Christine, thank you very much. To all listening, I please ask you, if you want to hear more of such podcasts, please click the subscribe button, okay? And also, you're welcome to go to my website at www.denzeljacobsot.ie. It will come up on the screen. I'll say it again though, www.denzeljacobsot.ie. And there you will have access to all the podcasts here, whether on YouTube or on Spotify. All you have to do is click the icon. So I thank you, everybody. I'm your host, Denzel Jacobs. Till we meet again. Bye-bye.